Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Claire will be more alienated by Kyle's foolish plan, and Sharon confides in Nick about her worries. Editors have picked all of the featured goods and services on their own. On orders placed through its retail connections, soaps.com might get paid a commission, and the retailer might get some auditable data for their records. In Chancellor Park, Audra is using her laptop when Kyle walks by. The argument starts after she accuses him of stalking. She accuses him of doing nothing but thumping his chest and making baseless threats when he asks her to leave town. The worst is yet to come, he cautions. Sally is her sole friend, and Kyle gloats that she will soon see that she is more trouble than she is worth. Claire must have recognized it about him, according to Audra. He offers her a bus ticket to the state line or a one-way ticket to any place. She makes it apparent that if she leaves, she will do so on her own terms. He warns her that if she doesn't disappear, someone else will. Audra Kyle. As she prepares to leave, Kyle keeps threatening Audra. As they talk, she teases him about what Holden and Claire are probably doing, notes that Kyle has even less friends than she does, and implies that his family is the sole reason he has a job. He is the one who ought to be moving away to begin a new life. He believes that she must accept responsibility for her shortcomings. She accuses him of loathing himself for desiring her so much while they discuss what transpired abroad. When will he come to terms with his true self? Audra Kyle. Will Nick let Sharon down? Sharon tells Nick at Crimson Lights that she can't wait for them to visit Noah in Los Angeles. He says that since it looks like his dad is getting ready for a fight, he might have to take a later flight. Nick proposes that she travel to Los Angeles alone and that he will accompany her thereafter. They talk about how thrilled their son is about joining a new club, but she thinks he's just using it as a pretext to get them out. Nick Sharon. Nick dismisses Kane as all talk and no game as they return to the subject of, what else? But Kane. Conversation shifts to Mariah. Sharon acknowledges that she is anxious to hear from Daniel and Tessa and that she has a gut feeling that Mariah's situation will worsen before it gets better. She thought about obtaining information by using her credentials, but that would be a betrayal of confidence. Nick tells her to enjoy their son and tries to see the bright side of things. When Audra shows up after Nick leaves, Sharon makes sure to inform her that she is en route to see Noah, who might be launching a club in Los Angeles. He is incredibly content and in love with Allie. Audra winces. Audra Sharon. What is Victor's strategy? When Victoria and her father arrive at the property, the conversation soon moves from Panda videos to Kane, of course. He has made the decision to have Chelsea and Adam divulge Colin's facts, which will undoubtedly damage his reputation. Victoria notes that he will not vanish because he has billions. Additionally, she cautions that he has little to lose and has alienated his children. Assaulting Ashby could exacerbate the situation. Victor. Victoria is still apprehensive about what the AI program would do if it is real, but Victor seems unconcerned. Victor clarifies that this is just the first stage of his assault. She guesses what he will do next. The mustache questions if Jill will support Kane. He is certain that it will benefit their family in any case. Victor acknowledges that all he wants is for Jack to believe he will cooperate with him. When Nick gets there, he expresses his excitement about visiting Noah in Los Angeles. His father tells him that every action is vital as they prepare to wage a full-scale attack on Ashby. They discuss potential outcomes. Nick still believes they should ignore Kane because he is only barking. His father wants Kane to understand the gravity of his threats. All of this will begin very shortly. Ashby is unaware of the challenges he faces. Why do Diane and Jack quarrel? Diane is still not persuaded that working alongside Victor at Jabot is a good idea. Jack expresses her worry about Jill's allegiances. Victor's role as his backup bothers Diane. Even her husband dislikes it. Although he acknowledges her fear, he assures her that she need not be. Jack tells her that Jill used to be an abbot. He is certain that she won't let Kane ruin Jabot or Chancellor, whatever of her feelings for him. Jack Diane. Changing the subject, Diane is concerned about Kyle's lack of optimism following the death of Claire. She is shocked when Jack acknowledges that Kyle is mostly to blame for his predicament and cautions against giving in to him. Diane contends that punishing him severely will just cause him to snap at Holden and Audra. Diane Jack. Swinging in, Kyle gets a cup of coffee. He tells his parents that although Claire's choice left him speechless, he is now prepared to fight. Declaring unequivocally that he has learnt nothing at all, Kyle declares that he will not allow Holden to woo Claire any longer and that he is going to Los Angeles to regain her. In Chancellor Park, the crisp autumn air hung heavy with unresolved tension as Audra sat with her laptop, fingers moving across the keyboard in a feigned display of focus, though her real attention was trained on the shadows around her. She knew Kyle wouldn't be far behind, he never was anymore, always lurking, always inserting himself into her orbit under the guise of protecting his family's honor. Sure enough, within moments, Kyle appeared, his strides purposeful, his jaw tight, his whole presence radiating anger he couldn't fully disguise. Their eyes locked, and the clash was inevitable. Audra accused him immediately, her words slicing through the cool morning like glass shattering on pavement. Was he following her, stalking her like some lovesick boy desperate to reassert a control he never really had? Kyle snapped back, chest puffed with bravado, accusing her of being a parasite in Genoa City, feeding off whatever scraps of opportunity she could scavenge. He told her she was nothing, that her only friend was Sally, and even that relationship would soon crumble once Sally saw what kind of trouble she really was. Audra didn't flinch. Instead, she smirked knowingly, tossing his words back at him with venom wrapped in silk. She reminded him that Claire had already recognized the truth, that Kyle was nothing more than a man pretending to be strong, thumping his chest to hide his insecurity, trying to issue threats he didn't have the spine to follow through on. When he shoved a bus ticket into her hands, offering her a one-way escape out of town, she made it clear she'd never let him dictate the terms of her exit. If she left, it would be on her own time, her own conditions, and not because of Kyle Abbott's pitiful demands. His final words, "If you don't disappear, someone else will make sure you do," hung between them like a curse, dark and foreboding, leaving Audra more certain than ever that Kyle was unraveling, his desperation exposing the ugly truth behind his perfect Abbott facade. But Kyle's attempts at intimidation didn't just alienate Audra, they cut deeper into his already fractured relationship with Claire, who had been quietly observing his erratic behavior from the periphery. What Kyle saw as loyalty and passion, Claire recognized as obsession and control. Every threat he lobbed at Audra, every careless boast that he was the one pulling the strings, only pushed Claire further away. It was Holden who gave her room to breathe, who listened rather than lectured, who allowed her to forge her own identity in Genoa City instead of suffocating her with demands. Kyle couldn't see it, but Claire's heart was hardening against him, her patience draining away with every foolish plan he hatched. And though he told himself he was fighting for her, Claire felt increasingly like she was just another trophy he was trying to win back in a game of Abbott pride. Kyle's reckless need to dominate every situation left Claire questioning not only his intentions but her own judgment in ever trusting him in the first place. The more he threatened Audra, the more Claire saw the dangerous streak in him that mirrored the very things he claimed to despise. Meanwhile, at Crimson Lights, Sharon leaned across the table toward Nick, her voice low but weighted with the kind of worry only a mother could carry. She confessed that she couldn't wait to see Noah in Los Angeles, to wrap her arms around him and feel, even for a brief moment, like their family was whole again. Nick smiled, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. He admitted that he might have to delay his trip because Victor seemed to be gearing up for another war, and when Victor was preparing for battle, no one in the Newman family had the luxury of simply walking away. Nick suggested she go ahead without him, promising to follow as soon as he could. Sharon tried to be understanding, but a gnawing unease clung to her. She told Nick she couldn't shake the feeling that Noah's new club venture was less about passion and more about creating a safe space, a shield from the storm of Newman family chaos. Nick brushed it off, assuring her their son was thriving, that he was in love with Allie, that everything was exactly as it should be. But Sharon wasn't convinced. Her instincts had saved her countless times, and this time they screamed that something was coming, something that could threaten Mariah, threaten Tessa, threaten their fragile peace. She admitted she had thought of using her professional credentials to dig deeper into Mariah's situation, to uncover the truth before it blindsided them. But doing so would mean betraying her daughter's trust, and the guilt of even considering it gnawed at her. Nick reached for her hand, reminding her to hold on to the joy of visiting their son, to focus on the love that still bound their family together instead of the darkness that always seemed to lurk on the horizon. Yet when he left, Sharon was left staring into her coffee, unable to shake the storm cloud hovering over her heart. No sooner had Nick walked out than Audra strolled in, her confidence sharp as ever despite her earlier confrontation with Kyle. Sharon made a point of mentioning she was flying to Los Angeles to see Noah, careful to emphasize how happy he was with Allie. Audra tried to mask her reaction, but Sharon caught the flicker in her eyes, the wince she couldn't suppress. That brief, unguarded moment said more than words ever could. Audra's carefully constructed armor was cracking, and Sharon knew enough to recognize when someone's jealousy and longing were eating them alive. Across town, Victor Newman was playing his game of chess, moving pawns across the board while keeping the king firmly under his control. He and Victoria walked the property, their conversation meandering from trivial topics like panda videos to the ever-looming threat of Kane Ashby. Victor laid out his plan with the precision of a general. Adam and Chelsea would expose Colin's past, ensuring Kane's reputation crumbled under the weight of scandal. Victoria raised her concerns. Kane had nothing left to lose, and a man with nothing left could be dangerous. But Victor brushed off her worries. This was just the first phase of his campaign, and if Kane wanted a fight, Victor was more than ready to give him one. He questioned whether Jill would side with Kane or stand by the Abbotts, but in his mind, the outcome didn't matter. Either way, Newman would come out on top. Victoria, still unsettled, pressed him on the AI program that had surfaced in whispers, wondering if it posed a real threat. Victor remained unshaken, insisting everything was under control. When Nick arrived, eager to share his excitement about Noah, Victor pulled him back into the family's war plans. Every move mattered, he reminded his son, and Kane needed to understand the weight of the enemies he was making. Nick tried to argue that Kane was just barking, all talk and no bite, but Victor's eyes gleamed with determination. Barking or not, Kane needed to feel the consequences of crossing a Newman. Back at Jabot, Diane was stewing over Victor's involvement. She hated the idea of him entrenching himself in their business, hated the thought of Jill's loyalties being tested. Jack tried to reassure her, reminding her that Jill's Abbott roots ran deep and that she would never let Kane destroy everything they had built. Still, Diane couldn't shake her unease. Her greater concern, though, was Kyle. His recklessness, his obsession with Claire, his constant need to prove himself, it was spiraling out of control. Jack admitted, perhaps for the first time, that their son was largely responsible for his own downfall, but Diane pushed back. Punishing Kyle now, she argued, would only push him further toward lashing out at Holden and Audra. Jack sighed, torn between the urge to protect his son and the knowledge that Kyle needed to face the consequences of his choices. Their conversation was interrupted when Kyle himself appeared, grabbing a cup of coffee like he hadn't just spent the morning threatening Audra and plotting against Holden. He announced, with the arrogance of a man convinced the world revolved around him, that he was ready to fight for Claire. He admitted her rejection had stunned him, but it hadn't broken him. Instead, it fueled him. He declared he was going to Los Angeles, not to find peace or closure, but to take Claire back, to win her from Holden by sheer force of will. To Diane and Jack, it was clear, Kyle had learned nothing. He was still blinded by his pride, still trapped in the belief that love could be conquered like territory, claimed like a prize, when in truth, every step he took was only alienating Claire further. And so the stage was set, Kyle, charging headlong into another disastrous plan that would only deepen the divide between him and Claire, Sharon, torn between the joy of seeing her son and the gnawing fear for Mariah's future, Victor, sharpening his weapons for the war against Kane, Diane and Jack, helpless as they watched their son spiral into obsession. In Genoa City, love and loyalty, power and pride, all teetered on the edge of implosion, and one wrong move could send them all crashing into the abyss. The air in Genoa City was heavy with anticipation, as if the very streets could sense the storms brewing in the hearts of its residents. Across town, Claire sat in her loft, staring at the stack of papers that barely seemed to matter anymore. Kyle's name echoed in her mind like an alarm bell she couldn't shut off. Every foolish plan he hatched, every desperate move he made, only pushed her further from him. She had thought love could survive mistakes, that loyalty could withstand obsession, but Kyle's latest antics had crossed a line she wasn't sure could be repaired. He had gone from confident to reckless, and every reckless act reminded her that she didn't know him the way she thought she did. What hurt the most wasn't the threats, or even the bus tickets, but the way he had attempted to control not just her life but the lives of those around her. Holden, always patient, always kind, had shown her a kind of love Kyle couldn't understand, the type of love that was nurturing rather than suffocating, that built bridges instead of burning them. And yet, she couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. Deep down, a small, stubborn part of her still cared for Kyle, despite his failings, despite the chaos he brought into every room he entered. But that part of her was shrinking by the hour, eclipsed by the reality of his obsession. Meanwhile, Kyle stormed through the city streets, fists clenched and thoughts racing. His plan to reclaim Claire seemed flawless in his mind, but every encounter, every word exchanged, had left him more unhinged than before. He couldn't understand why Claire wouldn't see him as the hero he believed himself to be. He remembered the way she had looked at him years ago, full of trust, full of hope, and he was determined to rekindle that spark, no matter the cost. Each step toward Los Angeles felt like destiny calling, yet even he couldn't ignore the gnawing anxiety that maybe, just maybe, he was walking into a trap of his own making. His mind flickered to Audra, still smarting from their confrontation. She had dared to mock him, to undermine his authority, to make him feel small. The memory of her defiance stung more than he cared to admit. Kyle's pride would not allow him to be defeated, not by Holden, not by Claire, and certainly not by a woman like Audra. In his mind, he was the only one capable of correcting the mistakes of the past, the only one worthy of Claire's love, and the only one who could ensure that his family's honor remained intact. In another corner of the city, Sharon and Nick were preparing for their trip to Los Angeles. Sharon couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, that the excitement she felt about visiting Noah was tempered by a shadow she couldn't name. As they packed, she glanced at Nick, who was unusually quiet, lost in thought about Victor and the brewing war with Kane Ashby. "Nick," she said, her voice hesitant, "do you ever feel like we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop?" Nick looked up, his expression a mix of fatigue and resolve. "Every day, Sharon. Every single day. But we can't live in fear. We've got to focus on what we can control, Noah, the kids, each other." Sharon sighed, unconvinced. She knew Nick was right in principle, but her gut told her that Genoa City's chaos had a way of spilling over into the lives of everyone who called it home. Her thoughts drifted to Mariah and Tessa, the unease tightening around her chest. She had tried to push it aside, rationalize it, tell herself that everything would be fine, but the nagging worry remained, like a shadow she couldn't shake. I feel like something bad is coming," she admitted softly, more to herself than to Nick. Nick reached over, taking her hand. "We'll face it together. Whatever comes, we'll handle it. That's all we can do." And yet, even as they reassured each other, the undercurrents of fear and uncertainty coursed through their veins. Genoa City had a way of testing even the strongest families, and the Newmans had already endured more than most. Across the city, Victor Newman was in full strategist mode. He and Victoria had reconvened at the Newman estate, going over every possible angle in their campaign against Kane Ashby. Victor was meticulous, methodical, and terrifyingly patient. He explained to Victoria how Chelsea and Adam would uncover Colin's secrets, ensuring that Kane's credibility would be obliterated. "He thinks he can play games with us," Victor said, his tone cold and unwavering. "But he doesn't understand what it means to face the Newman family."